Before you watch this, ask yourself one question. Why is the US government quietly spending billions on a celebration most Americans haven't even heard of? Stay till the end. What you'll discover about America's 250th anniversary will change how you see history itself. For 2 centuries and a half, the United States has celebrated its milestones loudly, with parades, proclamations, and public pride. But this time, something is different. America's 250th anniversary, the Semiquincentennial, is set to be one of the largest national events in modern history, and yet, most Americans have never even heard of it. No national announcement. No televised countdown. No open public planning. Instead, what should be a moment of national unity is unfolding behind closed doors. But why? Why hide a celebration meant for the entire nation? To understand the silence around America's 250th anniversary, we must go back to the beginning. Because the truth is simple and unsettling. Anniversaries don't just mark history. They define who controls the narrative of that history. And in a time when the country is more divided than ever, controlling the story of America's past means controlling the direction of its future. This anniversary is not just a celebration. It is a battlefield, a political, economic, and cultural struggle over what America was and what America will become. As billions of dollars move silently behind the scenes, and as federal oversight weakens, the question becomes unavoidable. Who is really shaping America's 250th anniversary, and what are they preparing the nation for? Every national milestone in American history has begun with a blueprint, a clear plan, published openly, debated publicly, and built with the consent of the people. But America's 250th anniversary did not begin with a blueprint. It began with a disappearance. In the early years of preparation, internal documents revealed a grand vision, educational programs in every school, nationwide exhibits, restored monuments, open historical archives, and a year-long celebration that would unite the country. Yet within months, that vision collapsed. Key proposals vanished from official websites. Budgets were redacted. Meeting notes disappeared. The blueprint of America's 250th anniversary, the entire roadmap, simply faded into silence. Former staff members described an atmosphere of confusion and then fear. Projects approved one week were cancelled the next. Partnerships were announced, then erased. Millions of dollars were spent with almost no public record of where the money went. And slowly, a strange pattern emerged. The programs that were meant to educate the public were the first to be removed. The initiatives meant to preserve historical truth were quietly defunded. The events meant to involve ordinary Americans were never announced at all. Instead, America's 250th anniversary was redirected into the hands of private organizations, companies with political donors, corporate boards, and no obligation to transparency. A national celebration turned into a controlled narrative. Some historians now believe the disappearance of the original blueprint was not a mistake, not disorganization, but a deliberate attempt to reshape the nation's memory at one of the most critical moments in its history. Because if you control which stories are remembered, you also control which stories are forgotten. And as 2026 approaches, the silence around the lost blueprint raises a chilling question. If Americans don't know what their 250th anniversary is supposed to look like, when the original blueprint for America's 250th anniversary quietly disappeared, something else quietly took its place. Not a new public plan, not a transparent report, but a network of private corporations stepping into the vacuum. In previous national celebrations, the bicentennial in 1976, and the centennial long before it, the American people led the story. Communities built parades, schools held events, museums organized exhibitions. The history belonged to everyone. But 2026 would be different. This time, the narrative began shifting into the hands of corporate boards, marketing agencies, and political donors, groups with billions of dollars, but no obligation to historical accuracy, public approval, or national unity. Among them were entertainment giants, branding firms, and companies specializing in political messaging. Organizations with the power to shape how millions of Americans see their own country. Some signed exclusive contracts. Others gained influence through sponsorships. A few secured the right to produce official anniversary content, with almost no oversight. And while corporations stepped forward, government oversight stepped back. Reports showed missing audits, delayed financial reviews, decisions made in closed meetings, far from public view. The very idea of America's 250th anniversary, a moment meant to honor shared history, was turning into a branded event, built not on education, but on influence. Historians and educators raised early warnings. If corporations control the story of the past, they may reshape it to fit the priorities of the present. What gets highlighted? What gets softened? What gets erased? A nation's memory, filtered through a marketing lens. And the question grows heavier. What role should billion-dollar corporations play in telling a nation who it is? For many Americans, the takeover went unnoticed. There were no headlines. No major public debates. Because the transition happened quietly, one contract, one meeting, one missing document at a time. But the consequences of this shift reach far beyond celebration. They reach into classrooms, museums, films, public events, and the way future generations will understand the past. The moment corporations stepped into the planning of America's 250th anniversary, politics followed. Because nothing in American history is neutral. Not the symbols. Not the stories. And certainly not the interpretations. Soon, political groups on both sides saw 2026 not as a celebration, but as an opportunity. An opportunity to shape the narrative of America's past in a way that would influence the choices Americans make in the future. Across the country, debates erupted, not in Congress, not on national television, but quietly, inside school boards, museum committees, and historical councils. Which stories should be highlighted? Which struggles acknowledged? Which mistakes remembered? Some groups pushed to emphasize patriotism and triumph. Others demanded honesty about injustice and inequality. And in the middle, the official anniversary planning bodies fractured. At one point, political influence grew so strong that several historians resigned, stating publicly that their expertise was being overridden by agendas. A celebration meant to unite the nation turned into a contest to claim ownership of the nation's identity. But the deeper issue was far more troubling. The story of America was no longer being written by historians, but by political strategists. Narratives were revised. Descriptions softened. Certain events amplified. Others quietly ignored. And through all of this, the American public remained largely unaware. No national debates. No transparent discussions. No open acknowledgement of the political battle unfolding behind the scenes. Because the conflict over the 250th anniversary wasn't happening in the spotlight. It was happening in boardrooms, phone calls, and closed-door meetings where the stakes were nothing less than the country's collective memory. As 2026 draws closer, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Historical celebrations are never just about history. They are about power. And the more you follow the threads of IES America approaches its 250th year, the question isn't how the nation will celebrate, but what it's becoming. Anniversaries are meant to unite, to honor sacrifice and shared history. But when the planning is quiet, the funding hidden, and private interests shape the narrative. the celebration becomes something else. A mirror, reflecting a nation divided over its memories, unaware of who is rewriting them. Most countries never reach 250 years. And those that do face the same choice. Confront the past honestly, or polish it into something safe. Yet across America, citizens and storytellers are pushing back, preserving forgotten truths, refusing to let the nation's memory be owned. Because America's story has never belonged to one party, one corporation, or one committee. It belongs to the people. And as 2026 approaches, the real test begins. Who will shape the next chapter, and who will have the courage to protect the truth? Because history isn't a script written once. It's a story rewritten by every generation. And the next chapter, America's future, will depend on who has the courage to speak the truth, preserve what matters, and refuse to let the past be rewritten in silence. The 250th anniversary is not just a celebration. It is a test. A test of transparency. A test of unity. A test of how a nation sees itself, and who it allows to shape that vision. And the answer will define the next 250 years. This is the story behind America's forgotten anniversary. If you're enjoying this journey into the future of human AI evolution, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next chapter could change how you see technology forever. Join our community of curious minds, stay ahead of the breakthroughs reshaping our world, and be part of the story as we explore the biggest what-ifs of tomorrow.